Politico has a really interesting article out describing how George W. Bush is doing financially since he's been out of office. So they say the following, quote, by 2011, President George W. Bush had given some 140 talks for at least $15 million. Bush's customary speaking fee fluctuated between $100,000 and $175,000 and may have gone higher. So far, so good. I don't see a problem with that. I don't think anybody sees a problem with that. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you look at that and you go, of course, it's a former president doing some speaking gigs, making some money. Whatevs, dude. Who cares? But here's the part that's generating some controversy. Quote, at one point, Bush charged $100,000 to speak at a fundraiser for a McKinney homeless shelter. So he charged $100,000 to speak at a homeless shelter. Okay, well that sounds and feels pretty gross, but understand the situation is a little more complicated because, as I said, they did it for charity, essentially. And let me go ahead and give you the homeless shelter director's comment on it. Lynn Scipiora, that's her name, she said, quote, we paid his regular fee. It was a bargain. We looked at many entertainers and political figures, and they were much higher. Hillary Clinton was like $250,000. We're a homeless shelter, so it was a hefty fee for us. But we ended up netting over $1 million. Okay, so apparently Hillary Clinton is a bigger douche than George W. Bush. For some weird reason, I'm actually not surprised by that, which says a lot, okay? But I'll bite my tongue there. We could go down that road, but I digress. So some would look at this either way, though, and say, okay, well, if they netted $1 million, it was definitely worth it, right? Why would you get upset over it? But here's my issue with this. George W. Bush was the president of the United States of America. He was also the governor of Texas. So, and this happened in Texas. So if he really wanted to, you know what he could do to fundraise for this homeless shelter in the state of Texas? He could fucking make a phone call. That's it. You pick up the phone, you call your buddies that are still involved with the Texas state government, or you call people who are still involved in the federal government, and there are many of them. You call some senators, whatever, you pull some strings. The next thing you know, you could raise not just $1 million for this homeless charity. You could raise $10 million. In fact, I'll go a step further. I don't know why the fuck he's not fighting, and all the politicians aren't fighting for funding that on a consistent basis and an annual basis where they get a certain amount of money and they have enough where they don't need to go and beg for fucking any more money. Right? So that's my issue with this. My issue with this is like, and it's not just George W. Bush. Again, I want to be specific. Hillary Clinton apparently is guilty of it too. Other politicians, I'm sure they're guilty of it. Entertainers, same thing. What you're doing is you're shaking down a homeless shelter and saying, give me $100,000. That could also go for food and for beds and to take care of people. But you're saying, give me $100,000, so take that out of the funding that should be helping the people, and then maybe I'll lend you some help so you can maybe raise more money. No, man, no. And maybe I'm too much of a naive idealist and I'm too optimistic in this sense, but call me crazy. I think that, perhaps we should have homeless shelters that are fully funded by tax dollars where they don't have to fucking go around begging Kanye West or George W. Bush or anybody else to come by to maybe help them out a little bit. So to me, I look at this and I think this is the problem with the system in general. You have people who are starving and people who are homeless and people who are in trouble, and the rich are saying, I'll only come by to help you maybe if you give me $100,000 in the process. And that's the good ones. George W. Bush, Hillary was like, give me $250,000. And then they're going to pretend like, oh no, I'm such a humanitarian. I demanded $100,000 or $250,000 so that then I can maybe help people who are in a shitty situation. Shouldn't you want to help them anyway? Isn't that why? Shouldn't that have been the reason why you got involved in politics in the first place? But no, of course not. And the thing is, I think that these guys are so deep in their bubble that they don't even, they haven't even considered this criticism that I'm giving of them right now. It hasn't even, crossed Hillary's mind or Bush's mind or anybody else's mind of, maybe what I'm doing is a little weird and is a little counterintuitive, to say the least, to say, okay, give me money and then maybe I'll help you. Maybe I should just do it to be a good person. And they'll make, plenty of money in other areas, making speaking fees in other areas. We all know that when they go to corporations, especially when they're out of there, these guys fucking vomit money all over them. So they're going to be fine either way. Former presidents, I wouldn't worry about them going broke, okay? But, of course, they couldn't make an exception for homeless shelters. They couldn't do it out of the kindness of their heart. They need to take money, which should go towards the homeless shelter first, and then maybe help them afterwards. I don't like the system. I know, some people may disagree with me about that, but to me, this is part and parcel of what's wrong with the system overall. The rich always have to get their cut.